Our study is on the big five personality traits and peer pressure during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Jade O'Connor.
I'm Sam Busick.
And I'm Olivia Eastloss.
We wanted to investigate the relationship between the big five personality traits and susceptibility to peer pressure during COVID-19. We hypothesized that higher conscientiousness would be associated with lower susceptibility to peer pressure, which means those higher in conscientiousness trait would be less likely to give into peer pressure. We did not think that any of the other traits would have a association with peer pressure.
For the method, we had a total of 78 participants, and each of these participants took a survey using the Google Forms software. This survey included questions from the Big Five Inventory Too Short, which measured personality on the Big Five traits: extroversion, conscientiousness, neuroticism, openness, and agreeableness. And the survey also included questions from a modified susceptibility to peer pressure scale, which measured susceptibility to peer pressure. This scale was also on a Likert scale, and we also included an attention check, which just required participants to leave a question blank.
So to calculate our results, we conducted a Pearson correlation coefficient, and unlike what we hypothesized, we found that there was no statistically significant relationship between conscientiousness and peer pressure behaviors. However, there was a significant negative relationship between agreeableness and peer pressure during COVID-19, and these results are shown on the bottom left graph. And for the other three big five traits, which were openness, extroversion, and neuroticism, we also found no statistically significant relationship to peer pressure during COVID-19.
So we think these results might have occurred because individuals high in conscientiousness might be more cautious due to being more health conscious and less risky, that they're not involved in peer pressure situations. We also think that the peer pressure situations might be different than what was priorly researched, and agreeableness could be associated because of the compliance with authority figures and COVID-19 rules and regulations.
Future research should continue to evaluate the relationship that we found between agreeableness and susceptibility to peer pressure. And we also think it would be beneficial to run an in-person experiment with susceptibility to peer pressure to better understand our finding.
And our limitations include participants answering COVID-19 guideline-related questions truthfully, in which case they may not have answered those questions truthfully because it would require them to admit that they may not have been following those COVID-19 guidelines. And just as it was mentioned, it may be beneficial in the future for future research to conduct an experiment in person with real life peer pressure scenarios.